Hello everyone, Blade Bananas here. In this video, we'll continue the journey that we set our foot on since our last video where we started to climb back from 1700 Elo. This will be part 2, the second episode of our Road to Legend from 1700 MMR series. And this will be day 3. So far we've had 15 sets of battles. Over these 3 days of battling, 15 sets, we managed to climb around 700 Elo. I think we're around 2400 MMR currently after day 3. So this was the team that I used. I had a Diggersby in the lead, and then I have 2 counters to Diggersby's weaknesses, which are usually fighters. So I have 2 Pokemon in the back that can hit back against the fighters pretty well. And without further ado, let's get into the battles. A lot of battles to cover, and I made a ton of mistakes, not going to lie. I think I could definitely climb even higher, but I actually had my first negative set over these 15 sets in one of the set that I had. Obviously, I'm not very familiar with this team, and this team has a pretty big weakness that I will show later. So here, in this game, I make a huge mistake here. When I had a Gramble, but for some reason I came in with my Nidoqueen here, which actually isn't the worst thing, because if I came in with Gramble, I would have to give up a shield, but if I come in with the Nidoqueen, I could actually match shields with my opponent. So that's what I decided to do here. I decided to match shields against my opponent. And then it turned out they had a Froslass. So in hindsight, I guess it was actually a better decision for me to come in with my Nidoqueen there. Because then I could farm down and get another shield from the Froslass, or get it really low, right? But let's see how we end up doing at the end of this game. But generally, if they swap into a fighter, you definitely want to hard punish it with the Gramble. In this game, I didn't really play it correctly, in my opinion. But sometimes, you know, maybe it's actually good to come in with the Nidoqueen, so you don't have to give us shields. But it's really hard to tell sometimes. But now we have the Gramble, and I think one Charm will take out my opponent, and that's GG to my battler, to my opponent. Wigglytuff is a pretty good lead in general. You could tell there was a desync there that I got an advantage, but I'm pretty sure that they will get the desync back right here, which yeah, they got a desync back. It's sped up, so you can't really see, but overall this is pretty good because you get to your moves extremely fast, and you are able to tank those charms because Diggersby is just a very, very tanky Pokemon in Great League. Especially the XL version, which is what I have here. Here I make a big mistake of going for Fire Punch. I think I could have made it to the Earthquake if I went for it, but I didn't even attempt to make it to the Earthquake. So unfortunately I only chip it down with the Fire Punch. Here I tried to catch a Fire Punch. Unfortunately I wasn't able to, so I'm trying to farm down the Hypno. Instead I swapped out to transfer that confusion because I thought I was going to die to that confusion, and here I just need to get a shield from the Sableye, and if I could land my crunch, this game will be over. But I would have to survive 2 Shadow Claws in order to survive the... Alright, I guess I don't survive the 2 Shadow Claws, so we didn't get it to the crunch, and we ended up losing that game. So even though we landed a good lead, but I still kind of misplayed and ended up losing. Oh, this is a game where I massively misplayed, and it's super cringe for me to even watch this. So here we go for the Earth Power against Jellicent. At this point, I don't think I should really shield. I could just get a ton of farm with my Diggersby, because if they throw the Ice Beam, they're probably out of energy, and I could farm down quite a bit. But they actually only have Bubble Beam. So here I'm going to go for a Poison Fang, hoping for a shield, but we don't get a shield, and I couldn't farm this down, and I ended up giving 2 shields. But at this point I'm committed to getting swap advantage, but as you guys are going to see, swap actually didn't even matter for this game. I'm gonna go for this Poison Fang. I should really swap into my Gramble right now, because I know that at this point they're double weak to this, to my Gramble. But I don't know what I'm doing here. Coming in with Diggersby. I guess at this point it doesn't really matter because they have two Pokemon that are really good against Diggersby, and they're both weak to my Grambo, but my Grambo is at a health range where it could die to a Rock Slide without a shield. So that's the biggest weakness of Grambo against Shadow Machamp, is that you don't live a Rock Slide. So you really need shields on Grambo in order to make it work. That's why I actually think Wigglytuff is a little bit better compared to Grambo. Just because that the fact that Grambo can't survive a Rock Slide from a Machamp. So here my opponent just barely got to this Rock Slide. If they were one away, we could have won this game because the charm damage would have registered and the Machamp would have went down. But if I just saved the shield for my Grambo, that game was pretty much over as well, right? I just massively misplayed. Alright, here we're against the Stunfisk. I think this set we barely went positive, and then 2 sets later we actually went negative, and it was just a lot of misplays on my side as well. And there's one Pokemon that absolutely ruins this team, as you guys are going to see. And I saw that Pokemon quite a lot, and I think that will definitely be a good pick in this meta as well. So I wasn't really surprised to see them, but that Pokemon will be really, really good against my team, as you guys are going to see. So here we landed a really good lead where we just go for straight Earthquake, and we got a shield, and we still end up winning the lead matchup, which was really good for us. And then they have a Escavlier, which couldn't really even survive the Fire Punch, barely survived the Fire Punch, and then died to Charm. And then they come in with the the Registeel. I go for this Crunch bait. For whatever reason, there is really no reason to go for Crunch because close combat, you know, it doesn't really, the debuff doesn't really matter from close combat, right? Because I died to a 1 move anyways, and the lock-on is not going to take me out. And here I tried to 2-shield flex my opponent, which I was barely able to because we survived a Flash Cannon, right? Alright, so this is the Pokemon that I'm talking about. Dewgong is absolutely terrible for this team. We have Diggersby that is really, really tough against this Dewgong because they outpace you to the second Earthquake, and after debuffs they can easily tank your Earthquakes. And then we have a Nidoqueen in the back that really can't even survive an Icy Wind. So I just have to sack my Diggersby and then come in with my Grambo. I barely took down the Dewgong with 5 charms so that I don't have to tank more Confusion, more damage, more Icy Wind damage. I didn't have to give up a shield, which was really important for me. And then they come in with a Mana Buzz. I go for this Poison Fang right away. I want to debuff so I can get farming down more easily. They did sneaking 1 Snarl on my first Poison Fang, which was unfortunate. But I think they make to 2 moves anyways, and we have to shield both of these moves. They still have a shield, so I'm trying to farm this all the way down. Hopefully, unfortunately, they didn't get to another move. And then I go for a Poison Fang here, hoping to grab that last shield. My opponent does not shield, so I go for the second Poison Fang, and this will definitely get the shield. And at this point, I'm just going to stay, and then we end up simultaneously KO each other, and we barely able to win that game because they were loaded with energy. Alright, Jellicent is a pretty good lead if in general, because if they have Ice Beam, they still need 2 Ice Beam to take you out, and you will end up getting your 2 Earthquakes, so you'll get a shield or you win the lead matchup, right? And if they have Bubble Beam, then you know, the Jellicent is not going to do much damage, and your Diggersby is able to easily tank these Bubble Beams, and the Hexes pretty much don't do anything because they're double resisted. But after the debuffs, it becomes pretty difficult for the Diggersby to farm down as well. Let's see if I end up throwing energy. Alright, I end up throwing this Fire Punch because I realized that farming it down would be really tough and I didn't want to risk it. So when they come with Obstagoon, I just swap into my Nidoqueen. And at this point, I baited out the Nidoqueen, which is the hardest counter to my Grambo, and this game is pretty much over. I guess their only win con they thought was us not going for the Earth Power, so they didn't shield, and we ended up winning. So here against Obstagoon, we instant swap into the Nidoqueen. which is our safe swap. Against Obstagoon at least, because it's the soft counter, right? So we barely made it to 2 Poison Fang, and my opponent didn't shield, so I was able to get swap advantage, and they come in with Obstagoon, farms me down. I don't wait out switch timer, I don't wait out the clock, because I realized the switch timer is not up for my opponent, and I can just get all these free charm in, and we take out the Obstagoon, and then they actually have Bombasnow in the back. And we just have to do a couple charms. We go for a charge move, we get the shield, and then this game is pretty much over because we still have 2 shields, and we could easily survive 1 move as well right here. And we are going to make it to 2 Fire Punch right here, and that should be enough to take out this Abomasnow with all the charm damage that we did earlier. Alright, Dewgong again. I think I only won 2 games against Dewgong out of 5 maybe that I saw. So Dewgong is really tough. Or maybe I only won like 1 out of 3 that I saw, but I did see a bunch of Dewgongs, definitely more than 4 times, and I lost quite a lot against a Dewgong. Because it's just so good against my lead Diggersby, and it's very good against my Nidoqueen. So I try to make a different play here coming into my Nidoqueen. And then I have to shield the Icy Wind, unfortunately, and then they end up having a Flygon, which is a pretty good counter to my Nidoqueen, because they could pretty easily survive a Earth Power, and they resist all the poison jabs. So here I could actually shield and farm down if I really want a swap advantage, but I don't think swap matters that much at this point because our Diggersby is so low. But then they end up having a very spicy Pokemon, Metagross. They make a really good sack swap here as well, but I don't think it even mattered because I'm pretty sure the Metagross was just going to bullet punch my entire team down anyways. Alright, here we're against a Golbat, which is a pretty good lead for Diggersby. Interesting fact is that Earthquake will do more damage to Golbat, and I believe it's more energy efficient as well, because it's single resisted, but it's a better move than Fire Punch, and it benefits from stab. So what I do is I go for Fire Punch first, and then I'm going to go for this big move of Earthquake, and they most likely don't shield, and yeah, end up doing more damage than the Fire Punch would. They just keep going for Poison Fang, which is still chunking down this Diggersby quite a lot. But we have more stats, and I think we're going to win this lead pretty easily because we have more stats. So we go for another Fire Punch. We got 2 shields, so my opponent really tried to win swap advantage. So here I'm not going to shield this Poison Fang, and then I'm just going to try to farm down. And then they come in with the Cresselia with Psycho Cuts, which is chunking our Nidoqueen a little bit. But what I'm going to do here is shield this Grass Knot, and I'm going to farm up right before they get to the Grass Knot, and then we go for the Earth Power to take out this Cresselia after Poison Fang debuff. And then they come in with the Sableye. I barely get off this Earth Power, and I think 1 Charm will do it. On my Granbull, I swap into Granbull, and we take out the Sableye, and it's pretty much game over. So GG to my opponent. Next up we have Diggersby versus Kingdra. Oh, this is a super interesting game. I think my opponent got a bunch of debuffs, which was really unfortunate for me, even for Great League. So they correctly shield up the Earthquake, and then they are going for this Octazooka gear, which we do shield, and I tried to swap into my Granbull, hoping to snipe down the Kingdra, but my opponent swapped extremely fast. They went into their Beedrill. So we're in a really tough spot here. I come in with my Diggersby, hoping to grab a shield, or we take out this Beedrill. End up not taking out the Beedrill, so we let our Diggersby go down, and we're just putting our hope onto this Nidoqueen. And let's see what they come back in with. Probably the Kingdra, because they want to land a debuff right here. I should have really thrown my move there, trying to grab a shield from my opponent, but I stay in, and here I'm going to try to farm it down. But they end up having a Charm user in the back. So that debuff, as you guys can see, that Poison Fang did like nothing because of the debuff from Octazooka. But fortunately, we had so much energy, so we just get to 3 Poison Fangs anyways, and we take out this Charm User, and then 1 more Poison Jab was able to take out the low health Kingdra. Alright, next up we're against Escavlier. This is actually a pretty good matchup for Escavlier, just because of the Fire Punch just chunks the Escavalier. And here they have Mana Buzz, we have Perfect Counter in the back, and then we just tank the airways, and then we Charm down. They probably come back in with the Escavalier. I'm just going to go forward this close combat to debuff myself so that I get farmed down a little bit less. And then they were already so low, and they just die right there. And then they have a Credilli in the back, which is not even a counter to my Nidoqueen. But it does handle Diggersby pretty well, right? So I'm going to go for these moves to chip it down a little bit, and I could probably swap into my Nidoqueen at this point, but for some reason I'm staying in. But I should really swap after this, and then I should be able to just Poison Jab down this Credilli, and that's a game over. Next up, we have Diggersby Jellicent. Again, I like to just stay in here because most likely they have Hex. If they have Hex and Ice Beam, they need 2 Ice Beams to take me out anyways. It could be because my IVs are good. I'm not sure if a bad IV Diggersby will survive 2 Ice Beams. But I think I barely lived 2 Ice Beams, and I will get to the EQ, the 2 Earthquakes to take out the Jellicent. So I do survive, and I go for this Earthquake, and that should take out this Jellicent. And then we're able to win swap advantage. And then coming with my Charm User, and then 3 Charms would should be able to take out the Machamp. So what I should really do here is just sacrifice my Nidoqueen, but for some reason I'm staying here way too long. Because my Granbull is kind of my win condition, but for some reason I'm not really preserving my Granbull. What I should really done is swap out immediately into Nidoqueen, so that my Nidoqueen could soak up all the damage from this Stunfisk. But that's not what I did. And I made this game really close than it really should. And I think I should really shield at this point because I was committed to letting the Nidoqueen finish off the game, but I ended up having our Granbull to win the game with 1 HP. And yeah, I think that was a 5-0 set, and we ended up at 23-45, and then we have 2 more sets to go where we climbed a little bit more. Froslass, again, very, very bad for my team. Froslass and Dewgong and Lapras, these 3 Pokemon are extremely bad for this team, and most of the time what I try to do is just sacrifice my Diggersby. Here I make a huge misplay. They come in with Sableye. I have a perfect counter. I didn't go into my perfect counter. Instead I wasted all my energy, and now I don't really have a good counter to the Froslass anymore without the energy, right? So that was a huge misplay on my part, and I should have really thrown my move right there, but I miscounted. I thought they were 1 away, so I tried to CMP tie them, but ended up having to give up a shield, and that was just terrible for me because initially I could have probably forced a shield, right? Alright, so here we go for this Fire Punch, but they still have 2 shields, and this is pretty much game over at this point, I believe. They have too much energy on this Froslass, and yeah, they just go for a double Avalanche, and this game is over. Tons of misplay. I think this game was very easily could have been won by me if I played a little bit better. Alright, so here we're against the Flechinder, which is a pre-evolution of Talonflame, but Talonflame is banned in REMIX Cup, I believe. So I guess this trainer decided to resort to Flechinder. They go for straight flame charges. I will go for straight earthquakes. Again, it's the same thing as the Golbat thing, but this time they actually resist the fire punch, so my earthquakes will do more damage, right? I come in with my Nidoqueen after they shielded, hoping to get an energy lead. So now I have a lot of energy on this Nidoqueen, and let's see what they have in the back. They have a Diggersby, which is fine. I go for these earth powers. After overfarming a little bit, hoping that my opponent maybe lose track of my energy, and then we were able to get off another earth power, so I think that's what happened. They probably lost track of the energy, which is really good. They end up throwing the fire punch as well, and yeah, they end up having my Machamp, and that's pretty much game over. because I just farmed down the Machamp. And then here, all I have to do is shield. Even if I don't shield, it's totally fine. But I shield and then I just charm down, and yeah, game over. Next up, Obstagoon. So I'm not that afraid of Obstagoon, honestly, because I have two pretty good counters against it, and it all depends on what they have in the back. So here they have a Drapion, which has a Poison Sting and Aqua Tail. They get to the move extremely fast. I go for straight Earth Power because I want to grab the shield, or I want to win swap. And I was able to win swap because my opponent didn't shield, thinking it was probably a shield bait. Alright, so they're coming with the Obstagoon. I will let this go. I could have CMP tied here, but I wanted to, for some reason I didn't throw. I should have just thrown. But I didn't wait out the clock. I just came in with my Gramble right away because I know they were stuck there and they couldn't swap out. So they have a Nidoqueen of their own, and in fact, if they won swap, I think this game was pretty much over. But you know, there was a chance that I could have baited, right? But this game is pretty much over because we have the correct alignment at this point, and we just have the hard counters lined up. If they land the Earth Power here, it could be dangerous for me, so I think I will shield the next one. Also, I could have just gone for the Earthquake, but I know the switch timer was up, and I would rather just take on my opponent. Nidoqueen there. So here we're able to get to this close combat on Gramble against this Nidoqueen. My opponent actually surrendered right when I was throwing the charge move, so it wasted a little bit more time on my side. Very well timed by my opponent. Alright, next up we're against Dewgong yet again. This is really bad, as you guys know. And I think this time it was even worse for me because my opponent had a really good IV Dewgong. Last time I was able to charm down my opponent Dewgong before they were able to get to the Icy Wind in 5. Let's see. I don't think I can kill this in 5 because my opponent had a better Dewgong this time. And yeah, last time I was able to charm down, but unfortunately we weren't able to do it. And then they have a Diggersby in the back. And I make a huge mistake here, which I go into my Nidoqueen, but Diggersby is a super hard counter to my Nidoqueen, so it didn't make any sense for me to do this. I was maybe hoping for my opponent to panic swap, and I ended up showing that my opponent had a Charm User in the back, so I kind of had a chance if I played correctly. Alright, against Grass, I swap into Gramble immediately. We see a Charizard come in. I think I can just shield once and then charm down, but I got a little bit scared and I ended up throwing this crunch. But I think I could have really just charmed down the entire way through. But they come back in with the Serperier. They are throwing this Frenzy Plant, which takes out my Gramble. I have the swap advantage, so I come in with my Nidoqueen. I think they're at a Frenzy Plant right here, so I try to throw on the CMP, but it turned out to just be a Leaf Tornado, so I must have miscounted. They have a Nidoqueen. They come in with Nidoqueen. I'm trying to get to the Earth Power, but for somehow they got to the move first after they swapped in. I was extremely confused. If I got my Earth Power there, I think this game is pretty much over, but for whatever reason, you know, they got to that move. So here I have to bait in order to have a chance to win. We ended up not baiting correctly. They didn't throw the Poison Fang right here, which is really good for me. So maybe we still have a chance, right? We have to build up to double Fire Punch, and then we get to the double Fire Punch right here. My opponent just got to the Leaf Tornado, and then with another Fire Punch, we should be able to take out this Serperier. It ended up being really close, but for some reason, you know, my opponent Nidoqueen was able to attack a little bit faster, and that made the game really close. But in reality, we should have gotten into the Earth Power, and then, you know, maybe we lose CMP, but I don't think we even had the chance of deciding if that was a CMP or not. If we lost CMP there, that's also fine, but we ended up winning that game anyways, right? So here we were able to land an Earthquake on the Wigglytuff, and then they shielded next Fire Punch. They come in with this Victini. I go for the Fire Punch bait, and we end up getting the last shield, so now I just need to land this Earthquake, and honestly, this is pretty much game over. I come in with Nidoqueen, anticipating the Wigglytuff coming back, but it was actually a Xylis, which will probably die to like 2 charms from my Shadow Gramble, but I wasn't able to get it on my Shadow Gramble. So I go for this Poison Fang, I just take out Xylus with my Nidoqueen, and I was able to take out Wigglytuff as well. So I end up having 2 shield remaining at the very end. Alright, next up we are against Lucario. This is actually not that bad because Lucario is so squishy, and it only has Power Punch. It still takes quite a while for this Lucario to take out my Diggersby, right? And I think actually swapping to my Gramble, hoping to chunk it with the Charm damage, but they actually have a pretty hard counter Ivysaur with the Razor Leaf. This looks like to be a Grass Hole team, which is not great for me. I have to shield this move. Grass move hits for neutral, right? And we're very squishy on the Nidoqueen. We shield a Power Whip, and we still have 1 shield. They have a Victory Bell. That's really interesting. So we go for this Poison Fang bait, and they shielded the first move, which was good for me. And then I land another one, and then they come in with the Lucario here. And I'm looking to farm up to 2 Fire Punch. They went for the Shadow Ball, which technically does more damage, but I think they should have gone for the Power Punch to buff up their move a little bit better. But we just go for a double Fire Punch to take out this Victory Bell. Next up, we are against a Fortress. So this is a really good lead as well, because Fire Punch is for double super effective, right? They come in with the Blastoise. I want to maintain swap advantage, so I go for this Earthquake first, and then I'm looking to farm down this Blastoise all the way. Let's see. I was able to farm down just barely before they get to the next move. And we have a lot of energy loaded. We go for this Earth Power, which hits for neutral against a Fortress. And I don't think I can make to another one. My opponent actually throws a move right here. So I will have to throw my Poison Fang here, hoping that my opponent lost track. Doesn't know where it went away, but my opponent decided to just sack it. But they had a Melmetal, and I just instantly swapped into my Gramble, hoping to counter it. But you know, if I just had my Diggersby right here, I think it was pretty much game over. And yeah, that was really unfortunate play by me. Kind of gave my opponent a chance because they were able to farm me down after throwing 1 Rock Slide to take out my Charm user. But if I just had my Diggersby on this Melmetal, the game would be pretty much over. But still, I think we're in a good situation because they can't have 3 superpowers here. They come back in with the Fortress. We go for 1 move right here, and I don't think they can make it to the Earthquake because Bug Bite generates energy really slowly, right? So they just get to the Mirror Shot, which doesn't take me out, and then I go for this Fire Punch, and I think 1 more Moss Shot will take out the Melmetal. They're already through back-to-back superpower, and they can't have more than 2 build up. Alright, the very last game we see a very spicy Steelix in the back, which is pretty interesting. It has Dragon Tail, which got a buff, so it's doing quite a bit of damage. I go for this Earthquake, hoping to grab a shield, and we outpace anyways. They come with Shadow Machamp, and I believe I shield this. I do shield the Rock Slide, and then 1 more Charm will take out the Shadow Machamp. And I should really go for a close combat. I should go for a Crunch. Because I recognize the Dragon Tail doesn't really do much damage, and we resist the Crunch as well, so we could force my opponent to throw energy right here. I could actually shield here and farm down, but I decided to let that go. We actually took out that Gramble anyways, and then have a Pachirisu, which is pretty much game over at that point. Oh, I have 1 more game. Froslass, again, it's really bad, but it's not unplayable if you play correctly. Because Diggersby should theoretically win this matchup in the 0 shields, right? Because you get to 2 Fire Punches, and you should be able to at least grab 1 shield in this matchup. But here I kind of panic through my Fire Punch, and then I come in with my Gramble here against the Obstagoon, which obviously is one of the hardest counter, right? We lift the Cross Chop, and then we just Charm down all the way against this Obstagoon. And then they have a Beedrill in the back. And I wasn't even able to land my charge move with my Gramble. Very sad. Here I tried to call the bait, and I was able to call the bait once on the Fell Stinger, which didn't do much damage, and we're able to live that, so we still have more shields remaining. And here I didn't really want to risk getting hit by the Drill Run to one-shot us, so I decided to shield. And then here we're throwing this Poison Fang right here to take out the Beedrill, and now I should be able to outpace my opponent Froslass because my opponent was pretty dry. Let's see. Alright, so I was barely able to get to the second Poison Fang, and my opponent has no shield now, and we're able to win that game. Very close game, actually. Because if they farm me down, it was could be different. But here is what we ended at after day 3 of our push back to Legend. Starting from 1700 Elo, right? So as you guys can see, we're making pretty nice progress, and I'm not sure if I will keep playing this team because this team definitely has some pretty big weaknesses. I think for my next video, I will introduce a different team that could be better suited for the Remix Cup meta, and yeah, definitely stay tuned for the next episode of this series. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys in my next video.